In a dark and mysterious forest named the Unknown, the half-brothers Wirt and Greg wander in a place where they don't even know how they got there, and something dark is after them. A place full of strange and disturbing creatures that seem to be taken from the most fearsome movie, achieving a psychological depth never seen in a Cartoon Network show. Through metaphors, it tells a profound and impactful story that makes us reflect like no other show. A metaphor to a feeling that lives inside each inhabitant of the unknown, and also inside you and I, that we are too afraid to face. While the brothers look for their way back home, Greg, the little chubby one, entertains himself looking for many names for a frog he carries, because the little guy has a serious ADHD problem.
Now where did that frog named Kitty go? George Washington being naked.
While Wirt weirdly realizes that they are completely lost in the shady woods. Why are they exploring the depths of the forest? How did they got there? Wirt questions himself while he begins to get more and more desperate. While Gregory, being a nonchalant and chill guy, leaves a trail of candy to try to calm his brother. Although his keen sense of style tells you otherwise, don't be surprised to find out that Wirt is basically a nerd who likes poetry. Wow, who would have guessed that? They are interrupted by the noise of an axe, which makes them more cautious.
Do you think it's some kind of deranged lunatic with an axe waiting out there in the darkness for innocent victims? Great!
The noise is a middle-aged woodsman working in the dark, illuminated by his lantern. Greg runs towards the sound, followed reluctantly by Wirt, because he's too scared of being alone. I mean, honestly, I would have peed my pants ages ago in this forest. As they debate calling for help, they watch their opportunity to get out of there leave. Suddenly, as if it were magic, a talking bear offers to help. A Wirt can't believe his eyes. Greg, chill like that, doesn't understand his brother's surprise. Wirt, with zero social skills, offends the bird.
A bird's brain isn't big enough for cognizant speech.
Hey, what was that?
You're weird. Like, not normal.
You know what? I'm starting to think you are not really that popular with girls back home. Well, me neither. At that moment, the woodsman returns, asking why they are here, and the bird flies away. Wirt explains that they just want to go home. This man tells them that the forest is not for children, and warns them of a dreadful beast that prowls around. The old man takes the kids to an old mill that he has adapted for his personal use, because that sounds like a great fun idea for two lost kids. He lights a fireplace while Greg continues leaving a candy trail. He tells him that he is dedicated to grind the horrid elderwood trees into oil to keep his lantern lit, and that is his burden. Just like the many characters of this show, and probably many of us, we all carry the weight of our sins.
This is my lot in life. This is my burden.
Wirt is like, yo, this guy is nuts. Let's knock him out before he starts inappropriately touching us. But then he retracts. The woodsman heard him and told him that if they wanted to live, they did so, but warns them of the dangers of the beast that stalks lost souls like them. Oof, the easiest manipulation tactic. The old man is truly a player. The woodsman goes out to work and Wirt considers the possibility of escaping, but hesitates, while Greg continues playing with random stuff. Reflecting on the woodsman's warnings, Wirt begins to believe in the existence of the beast and poetically expresses how lost he feels, which, not gonna lie, is actually good.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just like a boat upon a winding river, twisting towards an endless black sea, further and further drifting away from where I want to be, who I want to be.
Greg is like, wow, that's crazy, and gives a random rock fact. Wirt tells him to go play with his frog instead, so Greg goes out to look for it and meets the woodsman in the mill processing the branches into oil that he stores in bottles. Greg finds the frog inside a barrel, although at that moment this happens.
You have beautiful eyes.
Hearing a scream, the woodsman returns and asks Wirt what's happening. The boy returns to the house where the monster followed him. The woodsman tries to defend him with his axe, but Greg hits him just like the plan Wirt told him to forget about, leaving him unconscious. Top-notch survival instinct. The brothers flee to the roof, pursued by the monster. They notice that what broke the big dog were Greg's candy trail, so they use the last candy to make the monster get trapped in the mill wheel, and he is crushed. The monster spits out elderwood oil and a black turtle, transforming it into a mangy dog. The woodsman notices that his meal was completely destroyed, and he lost all his supply. Wirt says at least they had solved the beast problem, Yeah, bro, you're such a hero. But the man clarifies that the mangy dog was not the beast. He explains that the beast can't be appeased. He stalks like the night. He is the death of hope. Wirt blames Greg for what happened, but the woodsman reminds him that as the older brother, he is responsible. Now they have to leave and look for a nearby town.
And leave these woods if you can.
This was just the first episode, and a lot has been said about the similarities between the show and the Inferno of Dante's Divine Comedy. No, but this show goes even further than that, and has a message that is not being talked about as much as the similarities with the Divine Comedy, which have to be the first clickbait ever, because this theme is not funny at all. I would also give you my 2 IQ interpretation of this story, as we unravel the amazing symbolisms. 2 impactful metaphors the show explores. One has to do with something the woodsman tells them before leaving.
It is your burden to bear.
Burdens. Everyone we will meet has their own that they carry on. A lantern to keep lit. Something that they have to face one day. And this is for everyone, even little Greg, when he reveals to us near the end. And the other metaphor is fear. The next day the boys are walking, and we just can't comprehend Greg's immaculate sense of humor.
Do you listen to anything I've been saying? For the last couple hours, I've been saying...
Wirt decides to go ahead and finds a sign of a town nearby named Pottsfield. Very similar to Pottersfield, a place for the burial of unknown, nameless or unclaimed people who can't have a grave of their own. And when we see the town, it becomes clear why the name. Greg, for his part, here avoids where he finds Beatrice, the blood bear stock. After freeing her, Beatrice promises to return the favor by taking them to Adelaide, whom she calls a good woman of the woods, which with that name it sounds like a whorehouse. Wirt refuses and prefers to go to the town, and the rest follow him. The group walks to the place, and apparently it was an abandoned town. Wirt enters to a house looking for someone, but only finds a big turkey.
Oh,
Chicken.
We still don't know where they truly are, or what are they doing there, but let's quickly mention the parallels that we observe between the 2 stories. So Dante and Wirt are both on journeys through dark and unknown worlds. Both are insecure poet losers who had any sense of style with the goofy red hats. Dante began his journey in a dark forest on a spiritual journey into the afterlife, chased by beasts and saved by Virgil, who's Dante's guide into the Inferno, in which they read, "Abandon all hope, ye who entered." Just like how Wirt and Greg are lost in a gloomy forest, fleeing from a monstrous creature from which the little chubby guy saves him with his mad survival instinct. And in the end they continue their journey into the unknown with a warning about a beast that he describes as the death of hope. Very similar phrases, huh? And though Virgil is a wise mentor who knows how to spin the block with ease and guides Dante through the circles of hell, Gregory is... just Gregory. He doesn't know the forest, but he will guide Wirt with his innocent, curious, and optimistic attitude. Then, guided by the music, they arrive at a barn where there are people dressed as pumpkins celebrating the harvest.
Die, foul vegetarian!
A guy tells them to put on pumpkins, so they understand they are wearing costumes, because usually pumpkins don't dance. Upon entering, this girl tells Wirt that he has arrived a little too early.
You a little too early?
what do you mean?
I mean, it doesn't seem like you're ready to join us just yet.
The first time I saw, I didn't get why she said that, but soon we will see the meaning. Wirt didn't understand either. He only responded that he's just passing through and wants to leave Pottsfield, and this surprise is spreads among the townspeople. They close the barn, and things get more tense when Enoch, the leader, confronts them.
Because I simply have to punish you for your transgressions.
For destruction of property and disturbing the peace, they will have to pay for their crimes. But good thing they don't need a good lawyer, because they are only sentenced to a few hours of manual labor, harvesting corn, pumpkins, and then digging holes in a field. Due to the uncertainty of the forest, Wirt begins to feel that he wants to stay in the quiet town of Pottsfield, but Beatrice fears that they are digging their own graves. Wirt is like, "Nah, shawty, you tripping." But soon they saw a skeleton. Enoch and his group is approaching with that murderous flow. He asks Beatrice for help, and the bear flees. Greg and Beatrice escape, but Wirt is left distracting the pumpkins. Suddenly, two skeletons come out of the holes and surprisingly begin to dance. as they welcome Larry and Edward. After checking the bones, the skeletons put on pumpkins, revealing that everyone in Pottsville are skeletons in disguise. These skeletons, bro, they will never have the same level of swagger. Enoch finally tells Weird that they can leave, and although one day they will join them.
Sure you want to leave?
Me? Yes.
Oh, well, you'll join us someday.
From what we have seen up to this point, this is the only place where its inhabitants are happy. As I said, Pottsville is the abbreviation for Potter's Field, a place for the burial of the unknown. The skeletons under the pumpkins that reunite after passing away, just like in the Divine Comedy. The first circle of hell is the limbo. Weird returns to meet Beatrice and Greg, who are just chilling, while Bro was facing the situation like a champ. And they decide to follow Beatrice's advice to go to Adelaide.
I guess in some ways, I'm trying to get home too.
That's vague.
Back to the known, Weird stops to tie his shoes. Beatrice orders him to keep walking, and the little submissive loser obeys, and thus gets bullied real hard by Beatrice.
Just a pathetic pushover who relies on others to make all his decisions?
Wow, that's a hard one to recover from. In the blink of an eye, Greg disappears from sight. He finds a small school but walks away. Because I mean, who wants to study? Wirt and Beatrice, looking for the child, enter the school, where the teacher is giving class to some animals. That I don't know why reminds me of this image. She asks them to take the sick, and to bother Beatrice, he obeys the teacher. Wow, man, you're so tough. Then she teaches the alphabet, singing a melancholic and classic song about her sadness and the disappearance of her love, Jimmy Brown.
Guess why is the question that's on my mind.
The second circle of hell houses the lustful, who allow their uncontrolled desires to overshadow more important responsibilities. And we can see this reflected on the teacher, as she is neglecting the learning of her students. Although, to be honest, an obsession with a partner is something that they are going to see more in life than the Pythagorean theorem. Meanwhile, Greg is with a group of animals playing outside, because he's actually a cool guy, unlike his brother who's basically just a nerd. But suddenly, they are surprised by a gorilla. Greg and the animals hide in the school bell, accidentally ringing it, which leads the teacher to send her students to the dining room. The gorilla is still chasing the boys, but he's knocked out by the ugly rat. In the dining room, everyone is eating some vomit-looking potatoes, which of course everyone is depressed about. Greg wants to make things better, and after asking the depressive teacher to play a happier tune, Greg sings and makes the vibes more bearable. However, the father and owner of the school interrupts the music, takes the instruments, and sends everyone to sleep. Gregory feels down for not having managed to have fun, change the world, and make it a better place. While the pathetic loser is happy to no longer be Beatrice's lapdog, but that of everyone else. They still decide to save the day, so they find out that the man was not bad. He was pretending to be able to sell the instruments and continue financing the school. The old man falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he notices that the instruments were not there. Wow, this economy is so bad that even in the afterlife you'll get robbed. However, he immediately sees that the animals are using the instruments in a concert to raise funds, and it's going very well. Which I hope that's more than $2. At that moment, the gorilla appears. Whip trips over his untied shoelaces, but manages to overthrow the gorilla, who turns out to be Jimmy Brown, the teacher's last love. He explained that he had joined the circus to buy a wedding ring, and tonight you'll be stuck in the washing machine, sweet baby. Wirt and Beatrice decide to stay a little longer, so Greg can enjoy the moment and have some fun. The bird tells him to tie his shoe, and he obeys. I've made a lot of fun about Wirt's attitude towards the unknown, as he's insecure with little self-confidence and only acts when others force him.
Stay here in Pottsfield. It's nice here. I don't know.
Greg is the one who mainly forces him to go into the forest and who pushes him to act. Also, Wirt tends to evade responsibilities and blame others, especially Greg, for problems that are mostly the result of his own attitude. So now you see why I'm bullying this kid so much. Wirt is in a constant internal conflict, hiding the flaws that contribute to his misfortunes, as we've seen and we will see. Just look how when the bird roasted his ass, instead of recognizing it, he adopted that annoying attitude only to end up obeying her again when she told him to tie his shoelaces. Yeah, basically the average OF subscriber.
Girl! Oh my god!
And this weakness of character will eventually lead them to a breaking point. The group continues on their way to a strange tavern, something the woodsman saw. Inside, when they see Beatrice, she's kicked out, claiming that birds bring bad luck.
Curse you! You'll die someday, and I'll laugh! Laugh!
Something weird is that people here were not called by their name, but by their profession. For example, the butcher, the baker, the midwife, the tailor, you get it. The loser doesn't know how to describe himself and insists he doesn't like labels.
I don't really like labels. I'm just sort of like myself, you know?
Wow, no way bro really thought he killed it with that answer. So just like all of us, everyone thinks he's a simple fool. And who's Greg?
I'm hungry.
Dante's third circle of hell punishes gluttons, people who drink and eat excessively. Their gluttons can eat or drink anything, despite having food in front of them. Greg eats a lot and is surrounded by stacks of plates, while everyone like the damn souls don't consume anything, which must really suck. The scolded bear hears a tree being felled and a dead boy singing a grim song. Wirt is still unable to be clear about what he needs. He approaches the toymonger, but begins to ramble, which leads the toymonger to misinterpreting, thinking Wirt has a romantic interest. Not with the old man, but with Adelaide. And they sing another song, dropping some Reese advice. As you see, it's mildly frustrating how his insecure attitude causes him to complicate simple situations.
You guys,
I fucked that. Bro, damn.
Beatrice, seeing that Wirt can't get directions, goes out to look for the woodsman, believing that he should know the forest better than anyone else. In the middle of the confusion, Wirt is forced to sing a song, explaining, but he just kills the whole vibe.
This ain't no love song.
It's a metaphor.
Keep it together, Taylor.
They finally assume he was a pilgrim on a sacred journey, and after hearing some stories like the gorilla one, they ask for more, and Wirt mentions the woodsman and his warning about the beast, which makes the room go silent. The tavern keeper then sings about the beast, explaining how he seeks for children who are lost.
Once your will begins to spoil,
He turns them into oil trees and then consumes them with his lantern. Okay, this is getting interesting. Wirt says the woodsman had a lantern, not the beast. To which they respond that the one who had the lantern was the beast, making Wirt doubt. Suddenly they hear Beatrice scream. Wirt, for the first time determined, steals a horse and goes to her rescue. Nice, let's go, chap! Inside the forest, the boys discovered the woodsman was cutting another dark tree, so they thought he will turn her into an elderwood tree, and he must be the beast. With an improvised tactic, Wirt grabs his leg and yells at Greg to pick up Beatrice. Then he kicks the lantern that spits the oil and engulfs the tree in flames. So everyone flees towards the forest looking all badass, leaving the axe guy behind. By the way, the horse can talk. He will guide them.
Man, I haven't been on a trip like that since college.
Meanwhile, the woodsman runs into a shadowy figure whom he identifies as the beast, who upon realizing that the woodsman is running out of oil, reminds him that he needs to keep the flame of the lantern lit. Otherwise, his daughter's life will be extinguished forever. The boys continue their adventure, arriving at the house of Quincy Endicott, a rich old man who made his fortune with a tea company. Poor old dude seems disturbed, as he says the more money he made, his mansion grew further, but the more lost and lonely he felt. Nah, I wish I had that problem. Feeling depressed in a big mansion sounds better than feeling depressed in a tiny apartment that I struggle to pay rent month to month. He's happy for having visitors, as he thinks that the boys are his nephews. Beatrice explains that they are doing so to rob him, as they need money for the ferry. Wirt says that they are not doing that even though they stole the horse, but it doesn't count as he can do what it wants.
I want to steal.
It's only 2 cents, which honestly is a laughable amount, even for my broke ass. So Wirt is convinced. After dinner they notice Onki is a little nervous and sweaty. It turns out it's not Parkinson, but that's because he entered a room he had never seen before in his excessively large mansion. There he found a painting of a woman and he fell in love immediately. But apparently it was a ghost. Greg told him he wants to see her, so he left with Quincy. Fred the horse followed them to buy some time, and he says that while he's at it, he'll steal some other stuff too. Told you, it's a hard economy these days. The 4th circle is for the greedy ones, and Quincy personifies the punished souls there. His great wealth has led him to a constant and tortuous search for more. Also on the other spectrum is Fred's compulsive theft, the face of a complete kleptomaniac. While Beatrice and Wirt look for money, leaving who knows how much in damages, they hide in a closet when they hear noises. But they end up locked up, where they are going to get very intimate.
It's stuck. Well, guess we have to spend some quality time together.
But not the way you're thinking, you sick but because they start sharing secrets. Beatrice confesses she was human before being cursed along with her family for throwing a rock at a bird and wants to find Adelaide to reverse the curse. Wirt, for his part, shares in shame that he plays the clarinet, is in love with a girl of whom he thinks a lot, and recites poetry in secret.
Those are just, well, the poetry thing is weird.
They manage to escape through a secret exit because that is better than coming out of the closet. Now they are in a part of the mansion whose design is way different from Endicott's. On the other hand, the other group walked large hallways where we see the voices are getting too loud and Onki is losing his mind.
What if I'm on the brink of madness?
But thanks to Greg, he is motivated to face his fears and to continue his search. When they reach the portrait room, they notice it is completely messy. Fred is scared of seeing how the lunatic old man is losing his mind, so he thinks that he had killed the real owner and kept the house. In turn, he accuses Fred of going after his money. The old man gets crazier, and the horse says sorry and that he'll get an honest job. Suddenly they hear footsteps, thinking the ghost has come for him. However, when the woman appears, she was real, and the old man didn't have dementia. She claimed that she was the owner of the house. Onki was the ghost. However, the matter was soon resolved. It turns out that they both are dedicated to the tea industry and they were competitors, but their mansions are so huge they actually connected, believing that the other one was a ghost. The filthy rich are in love, so now they kiss. Thanks Greg to help him face his fears, and they both give the boy a total of 2 cents. Wow, what a damn stingy old wrinkled bag! Where the 2 coins are enough for the ferry. Fred, who chooses to stay with Quincy, finally working an honest job. But upon leaving, Greg throws the 2 pennies into the fountain, because everyone knows the best way to make more money is to wish for more money.
$1,000 a month into local wishing wells.
Of course, you idiot, 'cause I'm wishing for more money!
The juvenile delinquent gang sneaks onto the ferry, where we see a lot of well-dressed frogs, unlike Greg's, who's committing indecent exposure.
What's with George Washington being naked?
They were close to arriving to Adelaide's. Although more than being happy, Beatrice seems sad and distracted. They are soon discovered by the ship guards for not having paid. Weir quickly blames his brother and they run starting a cartoonish chase. To hide the disguise themselves as members of the band, and what could possibly go wrong? This doesn't sit well with the crowd, so Wirt uses this weird-looking clarinet, which leads to Greg's frog singing the song over the garden wall. Naked. Truly inspiring.
Over the blackened ravine.
Upon reaching their destination at night, the frogs do frog stuff, and Wirt tells Beatrice what happened between him and Sarah, the girl he liked. He was about to confess to her, but then this happens.
Jason Funderburker comes out of nowhere and whisks her away. Jason Funderburker.
Since in an unexpected turn of events, it turns out Wirt is a loser back home. Wow, who could have ever predicted that? Beatrice says that he's like a hero here, so they should stay here, and now they are not going to Adelaide's. When the boys are asleep, Beatrice secretly goes to her, where the brothers follow her. It turns out the wood woman of the forest is a saggy old witch who made a deal with Beatrice in exchange for some magic scissors that would return Beatrice and her family to their human form. However, when she realized that Adelaide wants some cheap and affordable slaves, lost kids are always the way to go. Beatrice tries to break their agreement by offering herself in exchange. That's when the boys arrive. Wirt refuses to listen. She quickly traps them, but Beatrice opens a window which exposes the old witch to some fresh air. So she melts like she was a Valorant player. Wirt uses the magic scissors to free himself and Greg, and takes the scissors with him, surely because he felt betrayed. The 5th circle of Dante's Hell is home to the wrathful ones, condemned to eternally drown in a muddy swamp, just like the frauds. Although they looked kinda chill, to be honest. We also see some of this anger in Wirt, which, resentful of Beatrice's betrayal, takes Adelaide's magic scissors so that the bird can break his curse. Who knows, maybe he'll apply some blackmailing. You can ask my ex. She's in my dark and cold basement, for sure feeling a lot of remorse. Feeling overwhelmed, the brothers continue their journey. Meanwhile, Beatrice deeply regrets her agreement with Adelaide. What we saw up to this point is how she had a clear objective. She wanted to save herself and her family, at any cost. That's why we see her being rude to them, and do whatever she could to manipulate the naive kids. However, now that she has faced the consequences of her acts, we will see how this changes her. After this breaking point, the boys are walking under the rain. Wirt assures Greg he has a plan, but Greg is not obligated to follow him. They run into the woodsman, and maybe it's because the absolute creepy stalker way he says things, the boys escape without listening what the old man told them. Basically, he was saying that if they lose hope, the beast will drown them in his darkness, foreshadowing what will happen to the kids. They run to an old and apparently abandoned hut, where they meet Lorna, and we see a basket of black turtles. She warns them to hide because her guardian, Auntie Whispers, is arriving and the boys hide inside the basket. And bro, this scene is tense. She is so creepy.
Not a soul.
Then no one shall be devoured alive tonight.
She perceives the smell of children and thinks Lorna is lying to her.
I can smell the children in this house.
What children? I'm like in high school.
Yeah, well, you still stink.
So this scary monstrosity uses the magic veil to hypnotize Lorna, asking her if any have entered. Lorna points to the basket, but when she notices the turtles, she thinks the smell comes from them. Then she orders Lorna to clear the floor, because it seems enslaved children is the most popular option here.
You shall sort the bones of those who have been eaten here before.
Keeping her busy is the only way to prevent the spirits from filling her being with evil. And she retires to sleep. Hey, that's the same I told my ex in my basement. After this, Lorna tells them she's not her real auntie. So Weird tells her that they should escape together. But first they need to finish the cleaning, which they do, whilst exchanging some smiles and blushes. Our boy's getting better. But Greg and his frog wake up the scary aunt, who immediately tries to hypnotize her, but notices that his veil has disappeared. They run and lock themselves in a room, but Auntie warns them about the danger of being near Lorna. Wow, this was scary. So it turns out Lorna was the one eating people, and that Auntie Whispers was keeping her busy to control her evil side. Oh, and you judged her only because she looked mad, scary, and fuck ugly. You should feel bad about yourself. Wit and Greg escape through the window, and when Lorna approaches, Greg takes out the frog that is glowing because he had swallowed the magic veil. Wirt then orders the evil spirit to leave Lorna in peace, and this obeys, breaking her curse. Wow, nice Wirt. It seems you're finally growing some balls.
You won't be needing old Auntie Whispers anymore to look after you.
But Lorna did not abandon her. The old witch warns the boys about her sister Adelaide, telling them to be careful as she's kind of a bad person. Which, I mean, she's kinda dead. Maybe Auntie hasn't checked the WhatsApp group or something. Greg is happy that Wirt saved the day twice today, but he starts feeling down as he doubts they will ever get back home. He is losing hope, and all of this was observed by the beast.
All hope will soon be lost.
Also confronting the woodsman, telling him the only thing that he has to worry is about keeping his daughter's soul. The woodsman says that the souls of children should not be treated as tokens, and insists that there must be another way.
There is only my way. There is only the forest, and there is only surrender.
The boys continue their journey. After a quick rock fact, Wirt was not in the mood. He was beginning to believe that they would not return.
This fog is deeper than we can ever understand.
Discouraged, Wirt blames Gregory for his situation and falls asleep under a tree. So Greg now takes leadership. They both take a nap. Greg hopes to dream a good way to take them home. In his dream, he arrives at Cloud City, where he leads a musical band. During the song, he accidentally releases an evil cloud, but after a quick fight, Greg traps him in a bottle, saving the day. The Queen of the Clouds will grant him a wish for his feet. Gregory wants to get them back home, but he's told that Wirt can't return home because he's too lost as Elderwood branches grow around him. The beast has claimed him already. The seventh circle of hell embodies 3 levels of souls who have committed acts of brutality against others, against oneself, and against divinity. There we see Dante in a forest where those who committed suicide are turned into a tree. Wirt is becoming into an elderwood tree. He has given up, which is basically committing suicide here. The death of hope. So Gregory asks the beast to take him instead of Wirt. Greg wakes up and says goodbye to a sleepy Wirt to live with the beast. Upon waking up and realizing what happened, Wirt runs after Greg but falls into a frozen lake where shadows lurk him. Fortunately, Beatrice and a fisherman fish Yep, rescue him until he faints again. I think it's time we answered the question, how did they got here? Now we see Wirt dressed a bit normal, but still looking like a boy whose mother dresses him. Doubtful about a tape for Sarah. Throws the tape, but then picks it up more determined. That he even crafts his Halloween costume and leaves his house saying, into the unknown. Still, he looks very stupid, but we gotta appreciate the sentiment. Wirt heads to his school's American football field, and here he met Gregory.
You old lady Daniels!
Goodbye, Gregory. And please don't call me old lady.
Yes, sir, young man.
The young man gave him some candies, and he got a facts rock that he claimed to have earned doing jobs. When he notices that Wirt is looking at Sarah, the school's mascot, and has a tape with her name,
Gonna give it to Sarah the bee?
Wirt says he wants, but he can't. So Gregory takes the tape and runs towards Sarah, but runs into 3 classmates of Wirt. The blondie takes it and seeing that it's for Sarah, tells him to hurry up. This is the infamous Jason Thunderbaker plans to ask her out that night. Wirt gets really nervous and feeling very discouraged, leaves and expresses his frustration to Greg, feeling that he cannot compete with Jason. That guy is the total package and he can't compete, he says. But before we continue, did you notice this? The moon. It's always in the middle throughout the entirety of the show. Just as it is at the moment Wirt and Gret will suffer the accident that Halloween day. I think at this point we already know something undeniable about the inhabitants of the unknown. They all are dead, which would tell us that the boys are walking through a place inhabited by deceased. We see plenty of evidence, like I said, the name of Potter's Field. Later, when Wirt and Greg go to the cemetery, we see the crazy old man's gravestone, and how the moon indicates that time is not moving for the inhabitants of the unknown. We see some parallels to the Divine Comedy, but I think instead of being the limbo or hell, this is more like a purgatory. The purgatory is a place close to heaven, but where temporary punishments are suffered to atone for those small sins that could have been occurred in life and obtain the true state of purity to earn a place in paradise. Trust me, I'm not crazy. If you take a look at almost everyone in the show, they must resolve their own sins or have conflicts that do not allow them to the eternal rest, also including Wirt and Greg. Yeah, even the little chubby one has his own sin that we will see later.
Everyone has a torch to burn, and this here's mine.
Back in the present, Wirt suddenly realizes that he didn't got the tape back because female interactions can put anyone nervous. He fears that Sarah and Jason laugh at his poetry and clarinet content. Which, I mean, who wouldn't? The boys return to the football field where the blondie tells him she put the tape on Sarah's jacket. Sarah leaves on her bicycle and the brothers follow her to a Halloween party that Wirt is afraid to enter because he was not invited. Gregory, chillest dude in the block, enters, and when Wirt follows him, everyone welcomes him kindly. Gregory is the total opposite of Wirt facing the unknown. He is confident on his ability to handle new situations, maybe a bit too much, whether a Halloween party or in a dark forest. Although his recklessness can put them in danger, yet Greg is the complement necessary for Wirt's caution and insecurity, pushing him to leave his comfort zone and face challenges he would have otherwise avoided. If it wasn't for him, would be under his sheets crying like a baby. Inside, Sarah is happy to see Wirt and invites him to the graveyard. And here we finally meet the infamous total package, Jason Thunderbaker.
Hey, Sarah. Are you ready to go?
Wow, when we thought Wirt was the biggest nerdy loser ever, Jason came to break records that we never thought possible.
Let's go, Sarah.
You coming, Wirt?
Wirt, still a huge dweeb, rejects Sarah's offer. But when he sees Sarah taking her jacket, Wirt realizes he couldn't recover the tape and then decides to follow the group to the graveyard, which by the way is called Eternal Garden, hiding with Gret behind Quincy's tombstone. He watches the group laughing with Jason, and he thinks everyone loves him.
Because there's one right behind you. I'm just kidding.
It's okay, Thunderburger.
Although disgust will be a more accurate word. But still, Wirt is angry and asks Greg to cause a distraction, amusing everyone, and they soon discover him. They invite him until a police car appears, joking about a meeting of witches, so the boys flee. Wirt and Greg climb a wall, and from there, Wirt sees Sarah with the tape. Convinced that his life is ruined, he jumps over the garden wall. Frustrated, Wirt guilts Greg and his father for always ruining his life, just because they always pressured him to join the school band so he could see Sarah more often. How tragic. They are truly ruining your life. Greg, still unfazed and stoic, finds his frog, saying that they must find a name for him. But suddenly a train is approaching. They manage to jump just in time, rolling the hill and fall unconscious to the lake, thus appearing in the unknown. Wirt wakes up after being rescued, and he was with Beatrice's family, protecting themselves from the storm. But Wirt has to save his brother from the beast.
You'd be no good to your brother dead. I was never any good to him alive either.
Remember how I told you one of the impactful metaphors told by the show is the weight everyone faces? The burdens. Even the characters with a home here can't live in peace. The teacher who can't stop wondering why the man she loves left her until they finally meet again. A man whose fortune is so big but still can't feel the loneliness he feels until he faces his fear of ghosts to find his love. The kleptomaniac donkey who finally gets an honest job. The girl controlled by a human-eating ghost. And an auntie that the only thing she wanted was that her niece doesn't abandon her. The woodsman whose conflict is the fear of letting go his daughter, clinging to the torch that she was still there, wandering through the unknown for who knows how long because he never managed the idea of leaving her. The way the woodsman tries to resolve his conflict is with desperation. The search for quick and easy solutions often leads to deceptive or harmful situations. He will resolve his conflict, his sin, when he finally lets his daughter go. Beatrice claims to be the one to blame for her and for her family being cursed. She walked away from her family and believes that she does not deserve to approach them until she resolves what she did to them, also wandering through the unknown until she can't find the scissors at any cost. And let's say that didn't go too well. It is easy to understand Wirt's conflict. It seems he has spent a withdrawn life, letting himself carried away by the chain of expressing his taste for the clarinet and poetry, always comparing himself to others. But his great sin was more than that. His awful haircut. What he has to resolve is how unfair he was in life with his little brother Greg. As we know, Greg is actually his half-brother. Maybe we could say he was never happy with his stepdad, and therefore feels disdain toward the stoic little guy, whom he sees and treats as a nuisance. He has to learn to accept his responsibilities and stop blaming others while he runs away. So, Greg, what is this little innocent child? What is that disturbs him? Let's see. Decided Wirt lives with the frog. Beatrice sees Greg with the beast in the forest, but a strong wind blows her away. The beast gives Greg almost impossible tasks, making lose hope. But Gregory turns them around in an ingenious way that my ape brain could never think of.
A golden comb and a spool of silver thread.
It's just spiderweb on a stick.
However, the beast has one last task. Capture the sun in a cup. Greg puts the cup on its stump to catch it at dust, but he has to wait in the cold. He begins to shiver, and although he assures that he will never give up, little by little, he begins to submit to the cold. Beatrice hits mad headshot to Wirt and shows him where she saw Greg, and they look for him together. At the same time, the woodsman tries to get some oil, but only has 2 branches of Edelwood. Without success, he hears the beast, and following the sound, he finds the beast, saying that he has a gift for him, and shows him Greg trapped between branches. He must use the boy to produce oil and save his lantern. Horrified by realizing he's been grinding up lost souls of children for years, refuses and tries to free Greg, while the beast reminds him that his daughter's life depends on oil. Furious, he attacks the beast, but he just laughs. Wirt and Beatrice find Greg. Wirt apologizes, acknowledging that everything has been his fault. Greg apologizes too, and we finally know his sin. Everyone carries his own weight, because he, who is without sin, casts the first stone. Otherwise, keep carrying it.
I stole it, Wirt. I stole it from Mrs. Daniel's garden. I'm a stealer.
Everyone here has their, more than calling them sins, are doubts, conflicts that torture them in life and continue affecting them now in death. Some represented in a metaphorical way. Not only we see characters that need to improve like Wirt, but there are others like Greg who got there because of a regret inside his head that was disturbing him, even if it was something as irrelevant as a small rock.
Greg, that doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Greg asks Wirt to give it back, but Wirt insists he return it himself and that they need to take their frog back home, which he calls Jason Ferndenberger, which is honestly a great name for a frog. Greg then closes his eyes. Wirt desperately tries to free Greg, while Beatrice gives him emotional support, I guess. The woodsman defeated by the beast falls nearby, and for the first time Wirt confronts the beast face to face. Naming the frog the funny name is significant, since at first Wirt felt inferior to him, indicating character development. He began to admit his defects, his responsibility, and finally stopped blaming Greg, thus being able to confront the beast. The beast offers him a deal, to place Greg's soul in the lantern in exchange for Wirt grinding the elderwood trees to keep it lit. Otherwise, he will see Greg perish. Wirt is about to accept, but he understands something. He realizes the offer is absurd. He doesn't understand the obsession of keeping the lantern lit. So he suspects that the soul inside the lantern is actually that of the beast. Wirt is surrounded by darkness and he is terrified, leading to the metaphor that summarizes the true feeling that each inhabitant of the unknown harbors and that also harbors in ourselves: fear. What are we really afraid of? We can be afraid of talking to the person we like, afraid of assuming our responsibilities, afraid of terrifying creatures that might not even exist. But one thing in common is the fear of the unknown. We have always fear which we do not know, and that's the basis that Over the Garden Wall uses to set his own style of horror. The beast is a total representation of the unknown, a creature hidden in the darkness. We can only see his luminous eyes. It doesn't need a clear shape because the true terror is that we don't know what it is. Making lost souls never free themselves, and using children to become fertilizer for the lantern that keeps his soul. Continuing, the beast surrounds Wirt with darkness and asks him if he's prepared to face true darkness. At first, he's afraid, but with courage looks at the beast in the eyes and asks him, "Are you?" When he threatens to turn off the lantern, the beast yells for him to stop, confirming that his soul is trapped inside. Wirt then hands the lantern to the woodsman, telling him he's got his own problems to take care of. "This one is yours." Wirt frees Greg and carries him in his arm, invites Beatrice to accompany them, but she refuses because she has her sins and conflicts to resolve, confessing to her family that their transformation was her fault. Wirt gives her the magic scissors so that she can break her family's curse. They farewell because Wirt is still alive. That's why maybe Wirt and Gregory were the only ones lost in the unknown, instead of having their home in the forest, unlike the rest of the characters, which they all are dead. Beatrice lives over the garden wall, and it's not yet time for the boys.
Oh well, you'll join us someday.
The beast makes a last effort to convince the woodsman to kill the brothers to power the lantern, but the man confronts him and we see his true form for a single second. A monster made of the sufferings of the souls. He is made of darkness, that is, of feelings of misfortune. However, the darkness cannot exist without light, but light is the only thing that can turn off the darkness. Such a poetic metaphor. Once you face what you feared the most, the unknown takes a form that was not as terrifying as you thought. And the show has showed us this since the beginning with his monsters. The first episode they face a dog that they assume is the beast, but in reality it's just an ugly dog. And basically everyone, the inhabitants of Pottsville, the gorilla, the scary old witch, the woodsman, everyone was not bad but friendly. Even the infamous Jason Thunderbaker. He gave the sensation of being this big bully, when in reality he was just a little pathetic dude facing his fears, and with a tear, the woodsman turns off the lantern, defeating the beasts, which never came from a physical confrontation, but from a collective process of self-recognition, an assumption of responsibility by the characters. It is only when each one accepts and faces their mistakes, overcoming their internal tragedies, that they manage to dissipate the power and influence of the beast. Wirt regains consciousness in the water, rescuing Greg and Frog from drowning. They find the brothers and they were fine at the hospital. While they hear their adventures in the unknown, Sarah reveals that she hasn't heard the tape, and Wirt, now changed and more emotionally mature, invites her to his house. Wow, nice one, champ! 10 out of 10 character development! Although it seems the experience in the unknown was a dream, the glow of the magic bell in Greg's frog's stomach suggests that their adventure was real, or at least the impact of the journey was real. Over the garden wall, the woodsman returns to his house, but to his surprise his daughter appears safe and sound at the door, as they both cry with joy. Lorna and the ugly witch enjoy a better life, the millionaires are together, while figures of the boys adorn the tavern. The guys from the school have fun, Beatrice enjoys with her family, and finally Greg returns his facts rock to the old lady's garden. The unknown is also the world out there. People are happy, sad, miserable. We all carry our own lanterns that we think need to be lit, when most of the time they are just burdens, fears, and regrets we are not capable of letting go, feeding an internal beast that keeps us in the dark. This masterpiece of a show taught me not to fear the unknown, to face my fears and internal struggles, and to take action. Facing all these things head on is not easy. It doesn't happen overnight either, but it's necessary so as not to live as slaves to the ties that can lead us to the death of hope.